Hi folks, so my name's Andrew and I'm a professional real estate property photographer and videographer. And in this video I'm going to show you my editing workflow for specifically editing kitchens. Now in this particular instance, this was a kitchen that a local kitchen fitter had asked me to photograph. It's quite a high-end kitchen, and so I'm going to talk you through the workflow process of it. So a little bit about the camera and lens. I used the original Canon EOS-R 15-35 f2.8 RF lens, and then I use a technique called HDR photography, which is taking multiple bracketed images and then stacking them on top of each other and blending them, and I'll show you that. Usually the settings are f8 at 15mm, ISO's usually at 100, and then the shutter speed changes depending on the exposure, and it'll take 3. So usually it's between 1/60, maybe 2 seconds, and 1/10 of a tenth of a second shutter speed. White balance is set to auto, and the only other piece of equipment I have is a remote trigger, so I don't have to touch the camera. So there's a couple of things in real estate photography that you'll notice I'll do quite a lot. Number one is straightening the images. Number two is removing blues, because blue color cast is what makes real estate photography look amateur, and if you can get rid of that without disturbing the colors of the rest of the room, that's always a good thing. You'll notice again my photos are always taken at about just below chest level. You want the camera to be as low as possible but without seeing underneath the cabinets, and most of the time, but not always, you want to see 3 walls. The reason for that is because it gives a viewer perspective. It lets them figure out whereabouts in the room they are, whereas if you can only see 2, you don't know if you're at a back wall or like in the rear corner of a room. You just don't know. So with that, let's get started. So the first thing I do is pop the SD card into the front of the machine and download all of the images. I'll then put them into a new folder and call that RAW. And then I'm going to set up a new folder and call that Lightroom files. And then I'm going to open up Lightroom, and then going to create a new catalog. For those of you that don't know, a catalog is basically like a collection of images, so I use that for different projects. Each house will have its own separate catalog. Lightroom files, so this one's going to be called Lush Kitchens. We're going to go to Library. We're going to drag and drop the RAW folder in and let everything import. Just hit return and everything should import. So in real estate photography, there's 2 main methods of taking high quality photos, and that's using flash or using HDR photography, which is high dynamic range. And that's where we take 3 separate photographs and then blend them together in post. And what that does is it gives you a lot more detail in the shadows and in the highlights. So I exclusively use HDR photography. It looks a lot more natural, a lot less processed. It takes a little bit longer to do on site, but I think the results look a lot more natural. So the first thing we do is we've got our images all imported, and we're going to stack these, auto stack by capture time. Usually I set that in around 6 seconds, and what that does is it automatically stacks all of the images into 3s usually. So here, for example, there's one in a set of 6, so I'm going to unstack that, and then I'm going to stack those manually with Command G. And then the remainder of these are non-HDR images. These are all detail shots and close-ups, and these were all shot just normally, so unstack all of those. So now we're ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all of my HDR photos, and then I'm going to click Shift-Control-H. And what that's going to do is merge all those photos together in their own individual stack. So this is a good shortcut. So I'm just going to let that sit in progress. It usually takes a few minutes. So what I usually do when the photos are merging is to go through and get rid of some of these ones that I'm not using. So for example, I'll flick through them. Usually I'll take duplicates, a lot of duplicates, because usually you don't really get the best images until maybe like the 2nd or 3rd shot. I tend to find, for example, here or here, and this one's a lot nicer framed. You know, it's got this kind of top around the outside of it, which has framed it a lot nicer. So we're going to just get rid of that first one. So some will be, you know, a little dark, some will be a little bright, some will be off center, some might be out of focus. And I just go through and choose the ones I'm going to keep and get rid of the ones that I don't like as much. So one of the top tips that I have when shooting property is to overshoot everything until you get comfortable with what it exactly is that you're doing. That way you'll always have backup images, and if you miss something the first time or the second time, you know, you've always got a fallback option just to come back on if you make a mess of it or whatever. So some of these, you shoot them on the day and you think they might look good, but when you get them back into post, they just don't look good at all. So that's why I overshoot quite a lot, because I would rather spend an extra 10 minutes shooting more and have more editing and have more flexibility in post than not shooting enough and coming back and, not having enough content to give to the client. So now that we have everything done, I'm going to move into develop. Now, to get rid of all these X's and all these ones that I'm not going to be using, I use this bottom icon here in filter, and click filter, flagged, and then click this middle flag, and that'll keep all of the ones on the screen that I already chose, and get rid of the bad ones. So one of the tools that I use is this Loupedeck Plus thing. It's okay. It could be doing with a little bit of refinement from whoever it is that makes this, but in terms of speeding up your workflow, it does work in terms of speeding it up. So I have a couple of presets here that I've designed myself, and this gets you to a stage where you can kind of start working from. So in this particular case, I always go 15mm detail shot, and I'll copy that using the Loupedeck, and then that way when I go to edit it, I can just continuously paste them on. I think there's a shortcut to do that a little bit quicker, but this is the way I do it. So what you want in real estate photography is everything to be bright and everything to be really, really level and square. So you want all of the upward lines here. These all need to be parallel to the side of the photo. Same here with this one. So the first question I ask myself is this going to be a flat image or a contrasty image? And using the contrast slider, I'll decide that. And in this particular case, I want this to be really flat. So I'd like it to be more along the grey tones than along the black and white tones. To me, that suits a particular type of house, but not this one. So I want to keep this as kind of a little bit left on the contrast scale. So exposure, pretty good there. Contrast is fine. Highlights down fully and shadows up fully. I'm going to take the shadows down very slightly here just to give the oven a little bit more pop. I then use the shortcut C6, and that's the auto leveler tool. And usually auto will fix it. In this case, not really that well. So I'm going to manually draw it on. So I manually draw on the lines to make sure that the image is dead straight. The color blue is what kills real estate photography all the time. When doing it, you have to decide whether you're going to keep the lights on or lights off, and usually the color temperature isn't perfectly matched to daylight. So usually what I do is I desaturate the blues, and you can see here, for example, when I desaturate the blues and then when I bring them back by clicking in here, you can really, really, really tell the difference. You can see this kind of color staining on these, and over here you can see that all. But if I take the blues completely out, it makes everything a lot cleaner and makes all the whites look the same color of white, which is what you're after. Next. So again, you can see here, this is a perfect example of how when color temperature doesn't match. To the left hand side of the image we have a lot of blues, and to the right hand side of the image we have a lot of oranges. So to combat that, an easy way is to just take the blues. Now I wouldn't say completely out in this particular case, it'll look too white. I want them to just be enough in it to fool your eye into thinking that everything was the same color temperature. So there's it leveled. I'm going to desaturate those yellows very slightly and desaturate those oranges a little bit, just to take the sharp look of it. The color temperature is fine at that. So we're going to paste this one again. This one's pretty level as it is, but I'm going to see if I can get it a little bit more straight, which that seems to be pretty good. Take out the blues. In this image I'm going to go maybe 80% of those blues taken out, and that's pretty good. So on to the next one. So first of all, for this one, I'm going to level it out with my C6 shortcut. If you don't have that, you can just go down to the transform tool here, and usually auto will get that pretty accurate. So in this one I want to get rid of those blues again down in the back, but not too much, just a little bit of the blues away. Desaturate those yellows very slightly, bump up the exposure a little bit, and for that photo that's pretty much done. Same going on to the next one. So we're going to paste that 15mm preset, and look, if you want that 15mm preset, it's just comment below and I'll make that available. I don't know how to export such settings, but I'll figure it out if enough people want it. So on this one, we can take down those blues, take down those oranges and yellows a little bit, and that'll kind of balance the whole colour out, but still keep it quite natural, because I tend to find when photos are when they're manipulated too much, to be honest, it just doesn't look right, to my eye anyway. So I would rather have a little bit of imperfection in terms of colour cast than have it too blue or too perfect, because if it is too perfect, it doesn't look right. It's great for a magazine, but when you're trying to sell product to somebody, people can see right through heavily edited photos, and to me, it just doesn't look right. So this is the way I do it. So for this one, I'm going to take those blues out, warm it up very slightly, add a little bit of temperature to that. Now I can see a bit of green in that, so I am going to take the tint up to the magenta very slightly. Maybe only 1 or 2 clicks, just to get rid of the little bit of green that I can see in that. This one again, I'm going to open up in Photoshop. Now I usually don't have as many as this. I might only have 1 or 2 per set. So in this one here, we've got a little bit of the tripod in shot. There's not really much you can do about that, you know. So for this one, I'm going to just go from here over. We'll cut that there. I think it'll know what to do there. And we'll content aware that. We've got a little bit here as well, which we can get rid of. And usually Photoshop is pretty good at getting rid of stuff like that. Yep, so that's that one done. We'll just X that, we'll save that, and we'll go back into Photoshop. Usually that'll paste that straight in for us. Next over to here, this looks very similar to my first shot. It's a nicer photo though. There's our Photoshop export in. Yeah, it's a nicer photo. So we're going to do that. We're going to take out the blues. We're going to take them out fully for this side. Warm it up just very slightly, 1 or 2 wee clicks. And it's pretty level there as we speak. Just maybe click auto level again. Verticals. Perfect. That to me is a really good image there. A couple of top tips when you're shooting real estate kitchens in particular: you never really want to see underneath the kitchen cabinets, but you want to keep the camera as low as possible. So in this particular case, I've straightened it up. I want to take those shadows down a little bit so that the view out the glass isn't just quite as reflective. It's a little bit more contrasty and saturated, so that's okay for that one. Here again, don't know if we'll maybe use this one. Well, I'll give it to client anyway, but it has this like tarp or something at the back, but we'll leave that in anyway, so that's pretty good there. So this one here, again, isn't the best angle, but we'll include it in the set anyway. I'm going to take down the blues, straighten it up, and again, Photoshop is very good, or Lightroom is very good at finding edges that are close to the edge that are straight. So in this particular case here, there's this wall over here, which it can, you know, that Lightroom can actually work off, again with this one over here, so that one should be okay. Again, we'll paste into this one. Again, these are coming out really good with just the preset and a little bit of exposure. So this one will straighten that out. Now here, I really don't like this wall to the right hand side, because you can see a lot of these paint marks in it, so I'll just crop that out. It'll be a little bit tighter. It'll probably be more like a 20mm shot rather than a 15. And I suppose it's good a time as any to talk about settings. So I shoot everything here that you're seeing on a 15 to 35 f2.8 RF lens, and I shoot all these images that you're seeing are shot at f8, I think, at f8, 15mm. Usually I set it to ISO 100, but in this case it was 160. And then the bracketing HDR the camera will just take it at 3 different exposures. Usually it's like 1/4, 1/20, and then 1/100, something like that. But it changes every time. So here's another example where I'm going to have to edit it in Lightroom. Which I really don't want to do, but it needs must. You can see my reflection really clearly in this. So I'll try it in 2 parts this time, and see if we can get a better result and kind of minimize the work that we have to do. So we'll take this one leg out to start and see how that works. That's much better, yeah. So we could go, let's try it like this maybe, and we'll try cutting a corner out of it. That's pretty good too. So what I'll do is I'll draw around this so that Lightroom or Photoshop knows what I'm looking to do. We'll go into the clone stamp tool, we'll click option and we'll click here, and then we'll just move that over like so. So we want to save that one, and I'll bring that back into Lightroom. So yeah, that one's good. Next one, we're going to paste it onto this. Again, we're going to take those blues down slightly in the background just to take the edge off. A little bit of exposure change. I'm going to straighten that image up slightly. That's pretty good there. Going to take those oranges down in the saturation and the yellows down in the saturation, just to kind of balance things out a little bit. A little bit more exposure and we're good to go. This one, don't like that. This one, oh, that's pretty good. So we're going to take the blues way out in this one. That's it. We'll straighten it up. And we're going to take the highlights are fully down, shadows are fully up. And that's what I want. And what you can do then is add a little bit of vibrancy to this one. Let me see. So this one. So here we go. Nope, don't like that. That one has a lot of barrel distortion in it. I think that's what it's called. It's either barrel distortion or the other one when it goes the other way. So I think I have this set up for, is it D2? No, it's distortion is that one. Yeah, I can tell there's a lot of this in it, and it needs to go kind of the other way. So I'm gonna just go the other way, so I think it looks about right. And we'll hit, this is in lens corrections, we'll hit constrain crop to get rid of these edges. See if I can straighten that up. I can't. So I'm gonna have to manually straighten this one up. This one's a bit trickier. So we'll straighten it up with this along the skirting board here at the bottom and along this top, and then through this one, and then through this one. So that should be a dead straight image. I'm gonna brighten it. Oh, take out those blues. Oh, now we're talking. Then highlights. Oh, highlights to the bottom. Take the whites down a little bit. Yeah, that's us there now. So whites to the bottom. We can take the exposure up very slightly. We could add a little bit of vibrance to that. And I'd also like to saturate the greens in this one, just to really try and make that, oh no, I don't want to do that. Tint, I want to add a bit of magenta to the tint. Yeah, just a little bit. So again, we're going to paste our 15mm into it. Going to get rid of those blues, we're going to straighten it up. And this one I'm going to manually straighten as well, because this one I want this one to be perfect. So straighten along the bottom, straighten along the top, straighten this edge, and then straighten this edge. I'm going to add a little bit of brightness to it, get rid of those whites fully, and that'll make it a little bit easier to see those reflect, or it'll take the harshness off those downward lights. So for when I'm shooting at 2.8 for these detail shots, a lot of the time you'll get a bit of vignetting on the outside of it. So what I'm going to do here is add a bit of vignette to that, just to, there we go. Again, you'll see it in a lot of these photos and it's really annoying, but it is just kind of just what the way it is. So I'll go like that. Oh, I have a detail shot. So we'll copy that detail shot. So I have for doing detail shots, I have a preset called detail. Sometimes I use the 15mm interior one, but let's use the detail one. Why not? We're going to desaturate those oranges and yellows very slightly. Now you can see here in this particular image, there's like this little imperfection down here. So I'm just going to take that out. That's probably just a wee mark or like a wee bit of dirt or something. So we'll get rid of that. There's another one there and another one there. And we'll add a little bit of vignette to that one too. I don't know, I had a vignette saved on this, but I don't use it very often, so I don't like that. That one's pretty good. And we'll paste that on, we'll take out those blues, straighten it up very slightly. Looks pretty good there actually. That's good. We'll warm it up very slightly, and that's us. Another thing you're looking for whenever you do photos like this is symmetry. So you can see here that I lined it up really nicely. So both sides of, for example, here and here both start at the same point in the photo. We're going to take those blues out. You can see those blues in the background. Brighten it up because you want it to be super duper bright. And that's us. Here, I don't like that. This one, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's pretty good there. Don't like that. Nah, it's not symmetrical enough for my liking. No. That one, no. This one, yeah, it's pretty good there. So we'll take down. If we could cool it down. Take out those blues. Minimize those orange and yellows. Good, looks good to me. I like this. This is like a corner of the granite top. It's like a really expensive granite that you can only get here in Northern Ireland, as far as I know. So let's get that nice and bright, and then we'll add a little bit of negative vignette on that. That down. We'll take the blues out. We'll take the blues out again. We'll warm it up slightly. So straighten that up. How does that look? Oh, that looks pretty good actually. I like that one. So we'll brighten that. We'll take those whites down, but we'll brighten it up slightly more. Yeah, it's pretty good there. Yeah, I don't like that one. We've already got a copy of that. Do I like that one? Let's take the blues out and see. Nah. So for this one, all I'm going to do to this is add a little bit of contrast, just to make those colours pop a little bit more. And contrast actually adds a little bit of saturation to the image as well, if you didn't already know. So this is an image here which suits the contrast being a little more contrasty, a little bit more moody. So we're going to do that for this one. We're going to take those blues down again. Copy and paste that exact same one from the previous side. We're going to crop it very, very, very slightly to try and match it up on both sides. It's a little bit too much. So you can see here the image starts at the hinge on both sides, which makes it look a little bit more symmetrical. Then along the top, I want this to be the same. And for here, all I'm going to do is raise those shadows, take down those highlights and whites, increase the brightness, decrease the contrast, and then put a bit of a vignette, a negative vignette on the outside to get rid of those black edges. And take the saturation down, or take the exposure down very slightly, and that is us done. So client has sent me through his logo. So what I'm going to do is we're going to drag that as a new Photoshop file. That's what we're going to do. Then we're going to select it all. We're going to press Option, and then this layer masks. So you can see here there's a couple that I've missed. So let's go back and just add those in with a shift, holding shift. And then Option, and then Option layer mask. Boom, we're done. And then we want to hit Shift, Option, Command, W, and that'll export it. And we'll export that as a PNG file with a transparent background. Back into Lightroom, and then we're going to hit Command A, right click it and click Export. Then we're going to go to same folder as original photo. I'm going to put that in Finished Media, Lush Kitchen. Then we're going to call the file names Lush Kitchen. And we're going to have that as a custom name with sequence starting at 1, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to limit those file sizes to 10 megabytes, because that's a little bit more manageable for a client that's using it just for social media. And then we're going to make a new watermark. So this one we're going to choose Choose our watermark. Let's go back. Let's go to Lush Kitchen. No, let's go back to Lush Kitchen PNG and choose. So for this one, I want this one. This is actually quite nice because this is blending in very nicely actually. So we're going to move that over slightly here, and this is again personal preference. I'm going to say about there. And we don't want it too in your face. So an opacity of about 55. Save. Lush Kitchen. Then after export, do nothing. Export. And here is some of the images that I created, and you can view them all on the link below.